Hello and welcome back to the Tears of Cry podcast. My name's Kritika.
My name is Mahnoor.
My name's Naisha. My name's Amber.
And I'm Parmika. And on today's episode, we have a special guest, and it's Mr. Gibbs. Introduce yourself, sir.
Woo.
Ooh.
I'm Mr. Gibbs. I've been a history teacher at Harlington for 5 years nearly, and I'm also currently the head of year 13 as well.
Interesting. So how did you get to being, head of year 13? What did you do?
It was a bit of a long process actually. I actually applied to be the head of year 8 first, and didn't get it. And so I applied to be the head of year 8, didn't get that role, so they offered me a position assisting with year 11 this year. And then when Miss Singh left after Christmas, they asked me if I wanted to apply for the role for sixth form. Did an interview, became head of sixth form.
You got there eventually.
Yeah.
Eventually, got there.
Slowly.
Year 13s to year 8s.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't think I would want to be a head of year now in the lower school.
Yeah.
No way.
My main question to you, sir, is why Diet Coke and why not Red Coke?
Diet Coke is superior.
Diet Coke is better.
Have you had Red Coke?
Yeah.
The authentic, original one.
No, it's just not as nice. I don't know I can't describe it. It just doesn't taste as nice. I don't even know what the difference is between them, to be honest.
She's thinking it personally. No, it tastes the same to me. Like, I don't find it.
No, it tastes different.
I don't see a
But Diet
difference.
Coke tastes like cardboard, man. It's
No,
the
it
vibe.
doesn't.
It does.
Okay, let's go back to the topic.
That's actually the main question I wanted to ask him.
This is not it. Amber, do you want to ask a question to Mr. Gibbs?
What are the main responsibilities in your role?
There is a lot more than you think there is, and I have found that out as well going into the role. There is, there's just loads more than you think there is to the job. So when the year 13s were here, obviously because they've now all left, it's a little bit different. But when it was here, literally every period I had to check who has gone to lessons and who hasn't, and I had to figure out where people were if they weren't. There was a lot of checking. It was attendance over the week, but individually as well. There was also just checking late detentions, off-school detentions, who's been to that. It's a lot of planning for next year when I stepped in. So after Christmas, you don't realise how much planning there is for the year after from Christmas onwards. So a lot of the role that I did was for planning for next year's course and everything like that, and the year 12s that will be coming in. Mainly the biggest job is attendance. Unfortunately, it's not the most glamorous position in the world. My second biggest job, genuinely, as year 13 after Christmas, was just stopping people from crying. That was the biggest thing that I had. I would say at least once a week there was someone who was finding something stressful, or they were going to fail an exam, or there was a home issue or whatever, and there was been a lot of tears this year in the last 6 months. Attendance first and then handing out tissues second. That was the job.
Having experienced the education system yourself, is there an aspect like you would like to change?
In terms of changing something that's currently there needs to be less emphasis in the sixth form, especially. There needs to be less emphasis on grades. I'm sure you've all heard of Ofsted, right? You wouldn't have had to deal with them that much. You might have had interviews with people and things like that, but Ofsted is a really, really big deal when you are a teacher, and the things that they look at I would completely change. So from a sixth form perspective, all they care about is, did you get your target grade? That's what Ofsted cares about. From my perspective, and I've said this to Mr. Jeffries as well, from my perspective, it should be, are you going to university, or are you going on to apprenticeship, or do you have a job, that sort of thing. That's what Ofsted should be looking at personally. But unfortunately, that's not what they look at. They just look at, have you got your target grade? And if you haven't, why not? So that's what I would change personally.
How was high school when you were our age? Was it different?
It's difficult to say.
You're quite old, isn't it?
I would ignore that bit. It's difficult to say because I haven't experienced life as a student in your
world.
Yeah. I don't know what it's like to be a student now, because obviously I'm not. But There's certain aspects I would say are the same. Social media and phones and stuff were just as big when I was in sixth form and when I was at school as they are now. Like, I was just attached to my phone as you lot are as well. It was just different phones. We all had Blackberries rather than iPhones back in the day.
And you had Facebook instead of Instagram.
I mean,
stuff
Facebook
like
still exists.
Facebook's for the
I'd like to point out I'm not actually that old. I'm 26.
Just have to, clear that up.
Yeah, I had to. I'd like to repeat that again. I'm 26.
that. No, in your
He's changing age
late
36.
20s.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
the stress is gonna get to you, isn't it?
Stress already has.
Yeah.
No idea.
Mad.
But no, I don't know. When I was at school, it seems pretty similar to what it is now. I genuinely think kids here work harder than I did when I was at school. Genuinely. I mean that like as an average as well. Like looking around the year 13s this year, with my year group, they put in way much more work than I ever did in the sixth form. Way much more, which explains the grades I got as well. So,
What grades did you go?
D.
not great.
Oh,
To be honest. Not amazing.
You've told us, didn't
How did
you?
you make it here then?
Honestly, I don't know. Genuinely, I don't know. I probably shouldn't have got into university with the grades that I got, but I was lucky enough that I did.
You just proved that anything's possible.
yeah.
Anything is possible. Everything happens for a reason. Like,
True.
I didn't get my first choice university. I got my second choice university, which in hindsight was probably a better choice anyway in terms of
one
the
was it?
course. I went to Hertfordshire. My original choice was Brunel. But the history department at Hertfordshire was actually very good in hindsight, and I'm glad that I went there. But yeah, I don't know how I got into university. Once I was at university, my attitude changed a little bit, not massively, but I did put in a little bit more effort at
We'd
university.
hope so.
Is university like actually easier than sixth form as teachers?
So I did 3 years at uni and then an extra year for teaching. It's just how it works. My first year of university didn't count for anything. So it literally was just, it's not even a foundation year. It was, my first year of university was to get into my second year. That's how it works. So it didn't actually count towards my final grade at all. Whereas my second and third year did count towards your final degree. But your third year is weighted.
Did you always want to become a teacher?
No. I genuinely didn't know what I wanted to do when I was at uni. It got to February of my third year and I thought, I need a job.
It runs in the family.
Yeah, it does. So my mum used to work, she's retired now. She used to work with SEN children, so special needs kids in infant schools. She used to work mainly with autism. She was one-to-one with kids. And my brother is a PE teacher at Ricedip High. So,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah.
Why history?
From like a career perspective or just as a
Just
Like,
general.
Generally.
I don't know. My dad really liked history, so I just sort of picked it up from him. But it's just, I know it's a boring answer, but it is interesting.
No, it's not.
Learning about Cold
It
War.
No.
It is interesting. 'Cause
Medicine in history was interesting.
most of
Medicine,
the stuff that we learn in history is still happening right now. Like
True.
the medicine stuff, obviously very apparent in COVID. The Cold War stuff is happening with Russia and Ukraine at the moment.
Apparently Russia's gonna bomb us soon. London
Yeah,
first.
they always
probably.
are. They always are. And then, like, for your year 12 stuff this year with America, that was all repeating itself with, like, Trump and Biden and everything. Everything that we have learned in history is still happening
You're
today.
experiencing it in real life.
What do you
Still,
feel about
I-
Biden? He's so like unpopular.
He's just as useless as
Yeah.
Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Like, he is...
Just less controversial.
He's clearly very, very old.
Yeah.
And, like, just
him like
not...
a new Hoover.
I don't think he's with it. all
They're
mentally.
long lost twins still. I love them so much. So you were taught by Mr. Corte.
Mhm.
So how was that, and how was it meeting him, like in
Yeah.
school?
So...
How
Same
was the
station.
initial
I actually-
experience?
Here is a story for you. You asked me to prepare stories.
Yeah.
I've got a story.
We
for
didn't.
you.
He's lying. He's lying.
Oh yeah, sorry. This is all not pre-planned. I haven't got a script.
Definitely not.
Wait.
No, gone to head.
So this was the only school that offered me an interview when I went into teaching, because I applied so late. Usually you're meant to apply in like November sort of time. I applied in February, which is very late considering Harlington was the only school that offered me an interview at the time. Luckily, they accepted me on my interview. So when you have an interview for training, you come in, you usually meet your head teacher, meet your department and stuff like that. You then go and watch a lesson, and then you teach your lesson, basically. So obviously I come in the morning, and I don't know what to expect. And the first thing that I'm greeted with, I'm sat in reception on the sofas in reception, and there is a kid just screaming. Like, just absolutely screaming. I believe it was with Miss Maidman at the time, so you know it's serious if she's dealing with it. And they're just like unbelievably loud. I don't know if any of you remember Miss Hughes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
supposed to be in my
History.
history. She's supposed to be
I'm
in
pretty
my...
sure she used to teach.
Yeah, and
your
She was
class,
supposed to be
maybe.
my form
In year
tutor, and then she left
I
us.
thought it was
Yeah.
geography, sorry.
Yeah.
So Miss Hughes was like my mentor when I was training, and she came and picked me up from reception. She was like, right, we need to go and get you observing a lesson. So obviously the first lesson that I go and watch is Mr. Quarter's lesson. So I walk into his room, and whilst I'm in there, have no idea that it doesn't click with me at all whilst I'm in there. And obviously the lesson that he's doing as well is sex ed. So it's sex ed with year 10, and that is the lesson that I'm observing. And it is one of the most awkward things that I think I've ever done in my life. He's shown you his red box. So that made an appearance in the lesson as well. And I'm sat there the entire time thinking about what I'm about to teach in like an hour, but also thinking, what is going on right now? This is not what I was expecting. At the time, there was like a display board outside Mr. Quarte's room with like all the teachers listed on it. So at the end of the lesson, I walked out of his lesson and I saw the display board. And no one had told me his name at this point, by the way. They just said, like, in you go, basically. And it said on there, Mr. Quarter, and I was like, oh my God, I know him. I was like, I definitely know him. So I turned back around, I'm pretty sure, and was like, you taught at Hayden, didn't you? And he was like, looked at me like he'd just seen a ghost. And I was like, yeah. I was like, you definitely taught me in year 7. 100%.
So did you have hair back
remember
then?
his face, and
Right.
he didn't
It was
remember
only when I saw his face and his picture next to each other that I was like, I knew it instantly. I was like, you taught me 100%.
He remembers you though vividly, like he was like,
Yeah.
you were so
He
quiet.
tells a story.
at
It was
back
the
of
same
class.
thing. It was the same thing with him. He didn't recognise me, obviously, because I was like 12 years old when he taught me, and I was actually 21 at that point. I joined the school when I was 21, so
5 years.
Fresh out of uni, guys.
September is my 5th
Yeah, we
year.
had you for the first year. I remember in your room.
My first lesson was a year 7 interview lesson. I don't think it was your class. I think it was someone else. But yeah, I walked out of that lesson, saw him, and when I told him that I went to Hayden, he sort of recognised me as well.
Oh, reconciliation.
Gone from literally student to working with each other,
Yeah.
which is very odd. So if you think I'm old,
You are
He is very. He has lived like so many lives. I said that to his face.
yeah.
And he's
He has
taught, like,
taught
everyone,
bow
in my
tying,
opinion.
hair, so many people.
You.
What has been your most memorable aspect of teaching? Like, have you had like a
It was us,
specific
obviously.
memory with a student?
Our class.
The most memorable things, very rarely, like, positive stuff sticks out. 'Cause you don't remember the good, you remember the traumatic.
Yeah.
I remember
Complete flip, I love
my
it.
3rd week in school, again, I was observing Miss Hughes, and it was a year 11 lesson, so they're long gone now, they're not in the 6th form still. They are well gone, but I remember a student walking in to the lesson, and he kicked, completely by accident, kicked another student's bag. And the other boy who was sat down, whose bag it was, he was like, what are you doing? Like, you did that deliberately. And the other boy said, no, I didn't. And he said, if you're that angry, do something about it. So the kid stood up from his chair and just punched him straight in the face. And I was sat there 3 weeks into my teaching, like, what have I just... And I remember I just froze. I was like, what has just happened? And and Miss Hughes is like scrambling across the room trying to break them up, and I'm just stood there with like.
This is why our year is the best. Nothing like that has
I
happened.
feel like now it's not as bad as it used to be.
Yeah.
The school
No.
it
School's
has
like
gotten
improved
better.
a bit.
The school had a massive reputation about 10, 15 years ago of being not a great place. There are a list of other schools, which for obvious reasons I'm not going to say, but
Yeah.
there are a number of schools that are much worse than our school. I don't think
No.
people in the school realise that it's actually a decent school compared to other schools and some other stories. I have a lot of friends who work in other schools in the borough, and they have a significantly harder time than we do, definitely.
I feel like people just like to. Can I say the word?
Go on.
They just like to shit on our school.
Yeah, people just
Yeah.
complain.
Yeah.
But you don't know any. All of you, I assume, have been here the whole time.
Yeah.
Like you've been from year
Yeah.
7. Oh, no, when did you? Yeah, most of you have been from year 7 to 12 now. You don't know what any other schools are like.
No.
Like it's the
No.
same with
Yeah.
me. It's the same with teacher. I don't know what teaching in Hayden is
Yeah.
like. I don't know what teaching in Bishop Ramsey is like. I only know Harlington. I trained here. I've got a job here, and I've stayed here for 5 years. But from some of the stories that I've heard, I think we definitely have a decent school.
Yeah. Do you ever think of like moving?
Yeah, I was gonna ask
I
that. I was
think-
literally gonna ask that.
I think naturally, yeah. I don't think I'll stay here forever.
Like,
Yeah.
But that's not because necessarily like I don't want to work here. There's obviously like I do have a life. Like
yeah.
I still live at home at the moment, so like if I have to buy a house, I might not be able to afford a house in London.
That's
So
true.
I might
That's
have to
true.
move away
Especially
if I
in
can't.
today's world.
Yeah,
Inflation.
exactly.
Inflation.
Exactly. I'm nowhere near buying a house at the moment, so
Neither are we.
You
yeah,
don't say. You don't say. 17-year-olds jobless.
No, it's difficult. It's difficult to say. I'd like to stay for as long as possible.
Do you think you're attached to the school and the students and the
Yeah,
teachers?
definitely.
Because
Definitely.
we're so lit.
There's a reason that everyone comes back. Like, do you realise how many staff have left and have come back?
Come back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Wild
Yeah.
has left twice
He
and
left.
come back.
Yeah, he left
Mhm.
twice and then came back.
I don't want to say. I don't wanna
Mr.
say. Yeah.
left and came back.
Yeah.
Mr.
Your
Nosworthy left and came back.
Yeah,
Oh,
he did.
yeah.
he did.
I remember that.
Yeah, there's Mr. Wander left and came back.
Yeah,
There's loads of teachers and students as well. I think
Yeah.
like the amount of year 13s that have finished and have come back since
Yeah.
their exam just because they want
Yeah.
to. It's
Attachment issues.
that's one way of putting it.
If you want a teacher, what other professions would you pick up?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I genuinely have no idea. This is all I know at the moment. Like, I might maybe leave the school, but I'd definitely stay in teaching. Like, I don't think I'd ever leave the profession. I genuinely have no idea what I would do if I wasn't
Footballer.
a history teacher.
Become a
I'm nowhere. I'm not good enough
You'll
to
make
be a
good money.
footballer.
You'll make
Oh
good
yeah,
money.
money would be
You'll
excellent.
make
It's-
good money.
It's a
You
shame
have to
I'm
be like,
rubbish.
you have to have like hand-eye coordination for that.
You don't.
I
Okay.
have that. I don't know. My original plan from year 7 to 9, convinced I was going to go into science, and then took my first it worked differently when I was in school.
So you are old. It is different.
All of them,
10
ABC.
years is not that big of a
Whoa,
difference.
10 years.
I'm 9 years
That's a
older
whole
than you.
decade,
lot.
man.
I'm
9
9 years
years.
older than you. Lot. I sat my GCSE. My GCSE exams were in 2012.
You're
Yeah.
still
I was
old.
going
Yeah,
to
we
nursery
we
back then,
connected,
so you're not
I
that
did
old.
the math.
No, he is. He's 10.
But yeah, I don't know what I do. I was convinced I was going to go into science until I got to year 9, and then sat my first test in year 9, and absolutely flopped it, and just did awfully in that. Took triple, dropped it,
As you
and
should.
did double instead, and took geography instead.
How did you overcome like the struggle of everything when you were like in school?
How did I? What? Sorry.
Overcome like the struggle of everything.
I don't know if I did.
Just double
I don't know. I wasn't a hard-working student that I tell everyone else to be. Like, my attitude was, when I was a student, I did as little as possible whilst also meeting the demands. Still, like the bare
That's the
minimum.
vibe.
The bare minimum is what I did. But in hindsight, like, my GCSEs weren't difficult. I should have done so much better than a C at GCSE, like way better than that. And A level was a lot worse, but it was just I don't know. It's hard.
Yeah, you know how you said like you still don't know what you would do other than teaching. Like, we feel the same way because like teachers are telling us to write a personal statement now, and I still don't know what to do. I'm still so confused.
In terms of career, yeah, none of you know what you're going to do for a job when you leave. If you're going to go to university or apprenticeship or whatever, none of you know what you're going to do. What we ask you to do though is just pick a career path. Like history, there's so much stuff that you can do with history. You don't just have to be a historian. Like you can do history at school and then have a law degree. Like you don't have to do that. Like you don't have to stick to the career that you're in. Mr. Fish has a history degree. He's a maths teacher.
I was so shocked.
Yeah.
He taught us for 3 years and then he said that and I was like, huh?
He does look like a typical history teacher.
It's a criteria.
But yeah.
No, Mr. King, Mr. Gibbs, and Mr. Fish, the Holy Trinity.
Yeah. I've actually got everyone used to say, no one says it as much anymore, but when I first started, everyone used to say that we looked the same.
You do that.
Yeah.
I have one picture where we look the same. Like, us three, me, Mr. Fish, and Mr.
No,
King.
today you were with Miss Coverhouse and Mr. King was there, and I was like, oh, look at the twins together.
Everyone used to get us mixed up. I remember Miss Maidment walked into my room once and was like, Mr. King, I need something. I was like, okay, I'm Mr. Gibbs.
It's like you guys are the same height and like, you know.
Same build.
Yeah, it's literally
Both
the
white.
same. Yeah,
Yeah.
Aryan race.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's one way of putting it.
Do you ever regret not working as hard as you could for your GCSEs and A-levels?
I mean, that's a tough one. I don't regret it, no, because I'm in a good position now. Like, everything worked out. But yeah, would I have worked harder if I had the opportunity? Yeah. Because, again, you're experiencing it at the moment. I say this to everyone. You will never, ever believe me. A-levels are hard, but they're not as hard as you think they are. Once you've finished with your A-levels and you go to uni, you will look back and go, actually, that wasn't that difficult. Same, GCSE history was not difficult.
No.
It was not hard compared to A-level history. It's not hard.
Well, you know, teachers always say the opposite. No, university is easier than
I think that.
A-levels.
I think that as well.
Well, you just said it's not.
But it depends what you do at university.
Yeah.
It just so happened that my course was easier. I'm not saying it was easy. It was easier than A-levels. It was still difficult. But if you're going to go and do chemistry at university or maths at university, university is going to be harder.
Yeah.
But it just depends where you go. It depends what your course is.
Yeah, especially like if you're doing medicine. Oh my god,
Yeah, I would never ever want
Yeah.
to do medicine at
it's just too much.
university.
Yeah.
Do you watch the new show like This Is Going to Hurt on BBC? Like, it's about doctors and oh my god, the doctor commits suicide because of so much pressure, and she's a junior doctor.
Is this real?
Huh?
Is this real or is this
I know
like
it's
drama?
based in 2006.
So it's a drama.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably, but
Right.
it's realistic though. The system is so broken.
But I think at the time as well, we found GCSEs hard because it's like the only thing we had done
Yeah.
at the time. And then with A-levels,
Yeah.
we're finding it hard because it's the only thing
And
we've
with
done.
you lot as well, really? You didn't even do your GCSEs?
Yeah,
Really?
we
Like,
didn't.
There's a little example.
don't get me wrong, the exams that you did were like all GCSE exams. The setting was a little bit different
Yeah.
and
In the
how we sat them as well, because we broke all of your papers in half.
Yeah.
So like
That's
we made it a
lovely.
little bit easier for you to cope with. But yeah, A levels, just like this year's year 13s, they're going to be a shock next year. for you lot.
Yeah.
They're going to be hard next year.
Do you think, you know how you were saying the year 13s this year were crying and you had to give out tissues? Do you think that will be us next year?
100%.
That
Are you
will be
ahead of
us
me
next
next year?
We
No.
don't,
Mr. John.
huh? We don't even have advanced information.
No,
Next
your one's going to be harder than this year's.
But the advanced information wasn't even accurate.
Alright.
Yeah,
Psychology.
psychology.
It was so jammed over.
There was a few issues, yeah. It wasn't many, but there was a few, yeah.
And like the examples with the papers they did, like for a geography paper, they didn't print the map right. They forgot a whole country.
Yeah, they
same
labelled
with
Africa
physics.
wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. They put the wrong countries. Like they said, like Nigeria was one country when it wasn't, and things like that.
But like they had a year to prepare for it, and they
Yeah.
like
And you'll think that's your job.
Yeah.
Why aren't you?
But that's not. We have absolutely no say
Yeah.
over that.
Yeah,
And
obviously.
it was really. Do you know what? It was really difficult preparing for your GCSEs because you're like, oh, just do a past paper. right? But the current GCSEs have only been around since 2017.
Yeah.
So there's only 4, when you guys sat your exams, there was only 4 sets of exams that we could
Yeah.
use. It's like we had to make up questions for you
Yeah,
and make up
that's-
stuff.
Did you guys make it up then?
Most of it was taken from the exam board website, but some of it was questions that we gave you. Yeah.
Oh.
She's like, I could have cheated.
You tried.
Some of it was, when I say some of it, it was like the style of question was the same, but like the actual content we might have changed up a little bit.
It's okay. We didn't use past
Where's your
papers like we
twitching?
do now. I don't even
And
know
all
how
of
to
you did
revise
all right
back then.
anyway. All of you did
Yeah.
fine anyway. So,
Yeah.
I wouldn't let you fail. I wouldn't let you.
Really? So with the growing influence, this is like a completely different topic. So with the growing influence of vapes,
Mhm.
and how they've become so, it's like ordinary nature to have one. What do you personally think about that?
As a former smoker, it's not worth it. It's like, I'm going to be like the controversial one. Everyone says, right, smoking vapes, what's the first thing that people say to you? That it's what?
It kills.
Bad for your health,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
My argument added on top of that is also it's just so expensive.
Yeah.
Like, as
Yeah,
someone
that's
who
true,
used to
true.
smoke and vape as well, like including whilst I've been here and everything, I used to smoke like last year before, I was still smoking.
Have you quit it now?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I picked up smoking in university. Biggest bit of advice I can give to you at university: don't start smoking, because everyone does, and it's so expensive. I then quit for a bit, started teaching, started again, and then quit again.
It's hard.
Yeah,
it
it's
is very
people
hard.
use it for stress, but
Yeah.
genuine. Like again, I'm going to be one of those people. I didn't find it hard to quit. I just stopped. I was like, I'm just going to stop going outside to have a cigarette. Like, but it is a problem with
I feel like
kids younger than you. I don't even think it's that big of a problem in the sixth form.
It's
yeah,
Really?
it's not. It's not. It's the
No.
younger years because of like social media and how everyone
Yeah,
will vape
there's-
and they think it's cool.
More people vape than they
Yeah.
do smoke.
And it's been like glamorized towards them,
The
and obviously
adverts,
they've
yeah.
added all the cool flavors.
It's so
course
easy
you'd
to
know.
get.
I do
Of
not
course you'd
know.
know.
Yeah, it's in the
Innocent.
corner shops.
Yeah.
I see it.
Yeah, there's no rules about advertising vapes, I don't
Yeah.
think. There's rules about advertising cigarettes, but not about vapes.
You know, like, do you know shisha?
Yep.
Apparently, like, shisha is so much more worse. Like,
I've
than
never
cigarettes.
I've never done
Apparently-
shisha before.
Yeah, Mr. King, the biology teacher.
My twin, yeah.
He said it's like equivalent to smoking 100 cigarettes at a time,
Yeah.
and people think it's cool.
The I can't remember what that is. Is it like Elf bars, the vapes?
Yeah.
They're called?
Yeah.
They're like 50 cigarettes
Yeah.
in one.
Mad.
So if you get through one of them, you've smoked 50 cigarettes.
So I don't get when people say it's safer because you're just.
It's
like,
not. Anything that you put into your body that is not naturally there is not going to be good for you.
because it's chemicals.
Yeah, it's mixing chemicals up. It's not good, but it is a problem. It's a problem at this school. It's a problem at every school. It's not just here that there's an issue, but it's not the older kids that it's a problem with. It's the
Yeah.
younger kids. I can we have kids in year 7 that we know.
yeah.
It's like,
Like
what?
we know.
Yeah.
Like you go to the toilet and you can smell
Literally,
strawberry.
yeah. They banned them from the toilet.
Who's cutting fruits?
At the start of like this year, like I saw this kid. He had 3 vapes. He dropped them. He didn't realize it. He came back. He picked them up. He ran away. I'm like, you're in year 7. Why are you vaping?
Wasn't there a kid vaping in
Right
like
there.
chemistry?
But it sounds very often it's like, oh, these things are happening. Like, why aren't we doing anything about it? It's very difficult. Like, we know it happens in D-block toilets. We know it does.
Yeah.
But it's about, we can't, for safeguarding reason, we can't stand in the toilet
Yeah.
whilst they're there. Like, if we could, we would. But we
I
can't
mean, they
stand
do
in
stand
there.
outside.
Yeah.
I know,
Like,
but
not
it's
at one time.
still hard.
Yeah, and
Because
the thing is, you won't see that in sixth form toilets, like
No.
vapes.
No. We haven't had that issue since I've been, well, until last week. But, yeah. Year 30.
Oh. My next question was, have you like ever caught anyone, and how was it?
Yeah, loads of times.
How did you deal with it?
Yeah, how do you deal with it?
Well, year 13, they came in, so they had study leave. Well, they had study
Are
leave.
you able to talk about this?
I'm not going to name names.
Yeah,
that's
But, no, decided that he was going to come in to do some revision and stood at the fire exit whilst I was in the room and decided to start vaping. So he was like, you chose to be here today, so off you go. Just sent him home. And that was what I did.
I feel like COVID, no, not COVID. I mean, vaping has become a bigger thing after or since COVID. Like before, it wasn't like as you know,
Big
you won't
and
see people vaping, especially younger years. Before
Yeah.
COVID, after COVID, when we came back, everyone had a vape in their hands.
Yeah. It's, when you go to uni, it'll be worse at uni, 100%. Everyone at uni will have one. Everyone.
So would you say you started smoking because like you wanted to try it, or was it more peer pressure?
Is that everyone else was doing it?
So you wanted to do
Yeah,
it?
everyone was doing it.
Conformity.
All of my friends,
What's that?
none of us smoked ever.
Yeah.
Before we went to uni. We all went to different unis. We met up again in like December or something, night out. Suddenly everyone is smoking. It's just, it happens. Everyone does it.
That's scary because, you know, peer pressure can make you do so
Yeah,
much
yeah,
stuff.
100%. You've heard hopefully you've heard the saying, like, if your friend jumps off
Yeah.
a bridge,
Yeah.
would
Would
you
you
jump?
jump off a
I would.
Yeah.
I mean, I would
100% people would.
100%.
100% people do. And it's the same with smoking. It is the same, like, go swimming and everything. Like, if you go on holiday or something and people are jumping off cliffs and
Yeah.
you don't do it, you're the,
Yeah.
you know.
But then your friend group as well.
It does depend on your friend group, yeah. So, I mean, I would be very surprised if you lot, like, here, went to uni and started smoking. I'd be very surprised.
No, I think we'd also
Why
be
not?
But,
No, I'm joking, I wouldn't.
some people,
no.
it wouldn't surprise me. There are
Yeah.
definitely people in
Yeah.
your year group that already do it.
Yeah.
And they'll continue it afterwards as well. But
If you had any piece of advice for us, what would it be?
do not worry as much. Stuff happens. Everything happens for a reason. I flopped my exams. I got a D in A-level history.
Oh,
I'm a
doing the
history
same.
teacher. We won't let you. We won't let you. I know why I got a D in A-level. I just messed up the exam.
Yeah.
Like, I wrote completely the wrong thing and realised as I walked out of the exam. I was like, oh my God, I've just written complete nonsense. And I only realised after the exam was
Do you
finished.
choose the wrong question or you roll
Wrote
the right
about the
stuff?
wrong dates. Had a time period in there
Oh,
and realised
I'm gonna
do that all
everything.
day.
So common.
And
though.
I realised as I walked out the hall, I was like, that was completely the wrong thing that I just wrote for that question.
Did you panic afterwards? How did you like?
There's nothing you can do.
I would die. I would stress so
Nothing
much.
I can do about it. I just had to hope that the other exams were fine. Which they were, clearly, because I'm still managed to scrape a D, so it was not as bad as I thought it was, but it was that exam that screwed me, yeah.
That's such an easy mistake to make.
It is, which is why we tell you to read the question.
We did it in Miss Cook's exam like 2 months ago. The bus boycott.
It was
The
about
worst-
legal action.
Yeah.
We read about the Montgomery bus boycott. She's like, that's not legal action.
Yeah.
I was like, that's the only paragraph I knew.
No, she was like, it's not even in the time, you know.
No.
It's not, but
That-
we can pretend like it is.
Every student does the same. They forget the basics.
Yeah.
You're so focused on, oh, I've got to remember this, and I've got to remember this, and I've got to remember this, that you forget the basic stuff. Like silly things, like people will walk into their exam and forget their exam number.
Oh,
Or
you
like
know that as
they'll
well.
walk into an exam and go, I don't know where I'm sitting.
you have
like-
to know where you're sitting.
Yeah, you get a little code
Yeah.
that tells you where you're
That's
sat.
so many details for one person to remember.
But it's stuff like that
I'll
that you're
forget my
so
name.
focused on everything else that you forget the basics. And my advice, if I could just, is don't worry. Like, there's literally nothing to stress about. If you do it, you do it. If you don't, we'll find something else for you to do later. It's like, it's not a problem.
I was going to have a breakdown on the Futures Day because I was so stressed. They were like, you need to do this personal
Personal
statement.
statement.
And
I
then,
had one when I got home.
yeah,
Oh,
same. I was
man.
like,
Personal statement.
My advice with problems, right, is I was told this a couple of years ago during COVID. COVID was not a great time for me either. But it was like, if you're worried about something and you know that you can do something about it, then why are you worried? Because you know you can you have a solution to it. So what is making you worried? If you have something that is worrying you and you cannot control it, then why are you worried? You can't control it.
What wise
so,
words of wisdom.
like,
You are
if you've got a problem and you know you've got a fix to it, Well, why are you panicking? You've got to fix it. And if you've got a problem and you know that there is no fix to it, why are you worried about it? There are different I was convinced a year ago. I was like, I want to be the head of year 8. I want this job. I wouldn't go near it now.
You got something better instead.
I actually was given something better.
Yeah.
So even though it might seem like you haven't got your way, it might not be the case.
Yeah. I could skip to like the next 10 years where like I have a job and I'm settled and everything. I would do anything for that.
Honestly.
But year 13 will be fun.
No.
It will be fun. It will be fun.
Towards the end. I just want the summer to come.
Do you know how many mocks we have?
Yeah.
How many do we have?
I don't know.
It depends. You'll have at least 2 for history.
Are they before the...
Usually sixth form exams are after Christmas. Usually.
After.
They're in January.
So it would be kind of a bit before the UCAS deadline. Oh my god.
Alright, so when teaching for the first time, what did you find difficult and have you crossed that obstacle now?
I was very young when I started teaching. My first A-level class, I was 3 years older than them.
That's
And it's
Oh
like,
my
there's a little bit of, it's not like I was disrespected, but it's like, you lot knew that I was young.
Yeah.
You lot knew that I was fresh to teaching.
Yeah.
You were going to
Because
take
there
as
was age
much
gap.
limit as you could, right? Some like the boys, especially in your class,
Yeah.
stretched and stretched, see how far they could get before I.
Kick
We were
them
so
out.
nice
Yeah.
to them.
Yeah, but you lot, your year group will always be one
Best.
of my favourites.
Classy.
Your year group your classes in year 11 are top 2. I wouldn't say
Wait, who's your top
1.
1?
Yeah.
My first year 11 year group
wow.
will always
Oh
be
my God.
so the year above you
April.
lot.
But I feel like a lot of teachers said that about us in year 11. Like even Mr. was like we were his favourite and that was shocking.
No, but in year 9 we were so bad. We had
Yeah,
assemblies
year 9 was the
every other
worst
week.
year.
We were like, they openly told us we were bad, like such a bad year group.
Miss, can I say? Miss, oh my god, she would be like,
Yeah, but I used to tell you lot in class that I was scared of her as well.
yeah,
you did.
everyone
I
was
used
scared
to-
of fucking.
I was scared of her, so you definitely should
No,
have been
you
scared
know-
of her.
It was when we had you in history. We had history, and then someone was wearing a white coat, and she was also wearing a white coat, and she was like, "Take your coat off," and he went like, "But you're wearing a white coat, so why should I take my coat off?" He asked for a demotion then and there.
No, but personally with COVID, how did you find it? You like previously mentioned that it was hard. Oh my god, next year, end of year 13, when I'm not giving you Diet Coke, you're going to get red Coke.
Don't bother. It'll
No,
go in the bin.
stop it. One bottle just
No,
try
in the
it.
bin on top of your head.
It'll go
He'll
in the bin.
pour it on you.
I'll be gutted when you lot leave next year, definitely. It's it'll be a shame because you lot were in year 8 when I joined.
Yeah,
Because who else is going to do a podcast with you?
it's like we
No.
grew up with you. Like,
Genuinely,
Yeah,
yeah.
we did grow up
Yeah,
with
yeah.
you.
Who would interview you?
Honestly,
Exactly.
we're just that amazing.
Relax.
I might make this next year. I might make a year 12 podcast a thing. Thanks for the inspiration.
Oh my
Yes.
yeah, you have to give us
Yeah.
credit.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea. I quite like it.
It is.
If we somehow published it so the whole school could listen to it, that'd be quite good.
Promote it for us. Honestly,
Yeah.
like our year 12s, they're
Yeah.
doing.
I think it would be really interesting to do it.
It's because
Could
I think it'd have to be a little bit more organised.
Yeah,
No, but it's like we can
Oh,
kind of
God.
together. We're editing
The
it.
The
stuff you have
language
said.
would have to change a little
Yeah.
bit. I think. No, but I think it's a really good idea. I like it, which is why I agreed to do it.
Yeah, and you need better mics as well.
But that comes with time.
Yeah.
As it grows, you can grow. Like
Yeah. We never know. In 10 years' time, we'll do another one. You'll be featured.
Yeah, 10 years later,
I'll be head
reunion.
teacher.
What email you? Hey,
Don't forget your TikTok at the end though.
material
I
girl.
don't know what you're on about.
No. It's
I've already done
wrap it up.
one.
That's not enough. Anyways, before we wrap this up, would any of you like to ask another question?
Are you content with your life now, right now, where you are?
Absolutely. For 26 years old, I'm doing very well for myself. Yeah.
I think if
I mean,
I
look
were
at
you,
me. I'm
I'd
doing
be
a
happy.
podcast with a bunch of year 12 students. Yeah.
As you should.
And the
we
way
slept
you
in
went
specific
from
teachers.
coming to school in hoodies to wearing a suit and like
A tie.
it was okay.
With
yeah,
a
he's
key
head of the
fob.
year now.
Still wrapping the F.
Oh yeah, I saw them in the
I
office.
haven't yeah, they're in my office, but that's for football on Fridays. That's
See,
the only
become
Oh
a
my god,
football
you
player.
did play football.
See, become a
Yeah.
football
Yeah,
player.
once
Bare
I was
money.
walking
Like,
home
have
and
you
the girls-
actually
I just
the
saw all the
women in
teachers
the
playing
goal?
football. I was
Yeah,
like,
the
what
teachers
is
play.
going
No.
on?
Yeah, they have a social life.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do have a lot.
You think they wouldn't? You think they wouldn't?
So unexpected.
All right.
Enjoyed it.
Signing off from the Tears of Pride
Yeah.
podcast. Thank you, sir, for your
Thank
time.
you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll be back next week.
Thank you, guys.
10 years time. Thank you.
That's good.